All right. Well, hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to join me today. This is a topic that I am super excited about because I think uh, it is the most powerful feature in Power BI that nobody is taking advantage of today. And I want to show you guys how I get to that place. Well, we're gonna skip to the end. So, like, if any of you are like, I want to get to the bars, we're just gonna get into this. Uh, Power BI metrics allows you to take snapshots of diverse data sets from across your entire landscape and track that over time. Uh, Doing that in any other tool or any other process is virtually impossible. I mean, you can do it, but it takes tons and tons of coding and storage and all this stuff that you have to put together. Power BI metrics allows you to natively do that inside of the service without having to build out all this other architecture. And the best part is anyone can do this stuff, right? That's why I say if we're trying to like blow up what we're doing inside of Power BI, it is with Power BI metrics. You're not going to find anything more powerful than this in the service, and I stand by that. All right. Well, for those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Chris Wagner. I'm a director of data solutions at Baker Tilly. I'm a Microsoft MBA, or I'm sorry, Microsoft MVP, Analytics Rebel, Data God, Power BI Boss, all that good stuff. I'm also the founder of KratosBI.com. I've got a YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and I post regularly different Data God profiles of people who are out there contributing and helping us grow inside of our data and analytics space. All right. A little bit of my background. I've worked in very large enterprises. I've managed multiple 30,000 plus installs of Power BI for several years. I've worked hard in environments that provide solution designs for 1,400 different Power BI developers. I've been part of a project where it was me and another guy. We took and we built a singular Excel tabular model. We expanded that out into Power BI for 3 people. It was Excel for like 1 or 2 people. Then we went to Power BI, and then we grew that all the way into a solution that was servicing 20,000 people. And that solution that was servicing 20,000 people, I love it because it was using a lot of the same code that we wrote and built inside of Excel was still existed inside that scaled solution. I've been in tech for over 2 decades. I floated between both inside the business and inside of IT, and I kind of enjoy that aspect of being able to work with technology, but also be closely partnered with people in the business. Now, uh, this this is not for me to talk. I've heard this. I know these things. I'm here to talk with you guys, and even though I'm not present, please, if you have questions, raise your hand, ask them. I want to answer your questions. I want to interact with you on things. So if you do have questions, please do let them know. If you're in the room, I believe we're going to have one person that's going to come off mute and ask the question. Otherwise, I guess if you're on the screen, please feel free to raise your hand. I can get to those. If someone could help me curate those questions, that would be excellent. I do see someone has raised their hand. Sadiq, did you have a question? Well, I don't know if he can unmute himself. Is there a chat, Sadiq, or a Q&A?
He'll have to type it into the Q&A.
Okay.
Otherwise, chat just comes up all over the place.
I gotcha. Good. Yeah. Good enough.
Cool.
So if you're online,
Chris, give us a moment. Just for people in the room, if you want to ask a question, raise your hand, ask it to me. I'll repeat it to Chris. That way, everybody catches it. Yep. All right. So you're good to go, Chris.
Awesome. All right. So let's get into it. So if we start to talk about why, let's take a step back and think about why these types of things are important. as we look across our organizations and we look at how data has evolved over the years, we've gone from a centralized team that managed and did everything for our company into a more distributed ecosystem. So even if you had that centralized team that was doing stuff, a lot of that work was actually being owned by different areas of the business. Sales ran sales, operations had operations, and even though that enterprise team was out there, these were just people that were working together, trying to bring data together, have some alignments, use common assets whenever and wherever possible, but often they find situations where that's not possible, right? Or you work at a company where maybe that's completely foreign to you and everyone's doing their own thing. Okay. But regardless, you, each system and every area is going to have their own owners, right? They're going to own the data. They're going to own their processes. And that's truly the concept of the mesh. Well, the challenge becomes if you have 15 different areas or a bunch of different areas that are owning their data, they're bringing it together. How do you create analytics that can really sit on top of all of these different areas to really track and manage goals of the organization, right? So if you have sales, there are going to be sales goals. If you have operations, there's going to be operations goals. By putting them all together inside of metrics, you can now take all of these disparate values and start to bring them together. All right. Now, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, this is a relatively new feature inside the Power BI service that allows you to create and track metrics. It used to be called goals. And then you can actually share those scorecards with other people. And this is going to be the first little demo of this so that we can all get on the same page and understand what it is we're talking about here. Okay, so if I go into any workspace inside of Power BI, I can go in and I can click on my new button and I can go down to my scorecard item right here. So let me zoom in to make sure you guys can see that. Right, so it's this scorecard right here. Click on scorecard. And this allows me to start creating and assigning a metrics name. So I'm going to call this one sales goals. Right. And, oh, I don't want to see that stuff. Yeah. Now oh my. All right. Now I can start to say, okay, who owns this? Like who's responsible for this? Like maybe the Power BI Luchador. Power BI Luchador, he can be responsible for this one. And now I've got a couple options here. I have the option to either manually enter in values as well as the target values, or, and this is where it gets really powerful, I can go in and I can connect this to data. When I click on the connect to data, it's going to pull in all of the most recent pieces or reports that I've been using. I can go to items that are favorited. I can go to items that are shared with me. I'll just go to one that I know. I'll go ahead and click on, this is my dark Power BI report. I'll click on next. Now, inside of this metric, it's going to take me over to that report that I had. Now, I have the option inside of here to going in and selecting any item that I want, right? And it'll tell me what I'm connected to, like sales, the amount, and what year I'm connected to. That probably doesn't make sense. I don't want that, right? I could just choose the metric straight up, right? So it's the current value on sales. We'll keep this easy. I'll say yes. This is the value I want. Now I go in, I could set this up, and for the purposes of this, I'll just set a manual target. Right. So, one too many. So I want to get to 89 million, right? Status, we'll say it's on track, and I can choose my finish date, right? So, hey, that's interesting. That's nice. But now I can go in, like I said, and I can say, okay, so this is my sales goal, but I can actually go and I can actually create a new one, a new one where I want to track my operations, right? So this is now my operations. And I can go to, just like I did on the other one, I can connect it to data. I can now go to my auto docs tool that's documenting my tabular model, and I can now start to like connect this into different aspects, and I'm actually going to step on something there. I can go in and connect this to different aspects of my model or whatever it is that I'm looking to track. Okay. But then once all of this stuff is in place, I can go to, well, I could choose all sorts of different statuses and whatnot. Oh, they just moved it. Once this is ready and I'm good to go, I can go back to my workspace. And now I can choose how often I want this thing to, where did refresh? And it's under the settings for it, right? Settings. And just like anything else, you schedule your refresh of when you want it to be updated, right? So I could say that I want this updated every day at 6 a.m. Okay. And now this is going to continue to take a snapshot of my data every single day at 6 a.m. All right. As you can see, a very powerful potential here for starting to track and make available all this information. Because this information, it is just a data set, right? You saw that I was going into the scorecard right here. That was going to allow me to track that information. I can now also build reports off of that. So if I want to gather metrics, assign it to different people, assign different names to it, I could track all of these inside of my report. All right. So those are the basics of Power BI metric creation. Does anyone have any questions about that before I go on? Oh, awesome.
Nothing from here.
All right, good deal. Let's keep going. Now, some of the advanced items that you can really start to do inside here is now you can take this information that once you've created these metrics, is you can wrap row level security around that, so you can secure who's allowed to see what. And this is, I think, is super valuable, is you can take that information and you can now embed that into something else, right? So if I've got my my scorecard that I've been tracking and I've got up and running, and that I've got all these different pieces of information, I can now take these metrics and I can individually do something with them, right? I can either embed these individually into reports, or I can embed an entire scorecard into a report. And I'm going to show you how powerful that can be uh, next. All right, as we start to combine these solutions. So the first one is, I started to kind of allude to that, is tracking on our model quality. So let me uh, let me go over to this report. Now, if you're familiar with the Data God Model Auto Docs, this allows you to dynamically track and document everything about your model. So all the tables, all the fields, all your measures, all that good stuff. It also has inside here the ability to track a summary of your model. So how big it is, what are the largest models? This is very akin to uh, um, oh my gosh, what's a vertipack analysis of reviewing what's inside your model. What's powerful here, though, is because I now have these metrics, I can start to track these metrics and determine, like, what is the quality of the content that I have, right? So I can go in and I can start to actually track what I call action metrics here, which allows me to kind of hone in on the quality of my model, right? So in this case, my model is relatively small. It's AdventureWorks. But if you work with a larger model, or especially if you're working with a model that's you're afraid is going to start to bump up against the size of what you're allowed to do, or inside of either a P1 or Power BI Pro or analysis services, um, this allows you to actually start to track that and set goals around it, right? Same thing with cardinalities. Same thing with like many-to-many relationships. You can really start to manage all of those different items, right? And then, oh, come on. Once you have those in place, you can really start to assign these to different individuals and developers, right? So if you're a manager of an analytics platform and you're trying to make sure that the quality of your models and the quality of your stuff is staying high, you can now start to track these and set targets and goals for people. So, for example, I had a very large model I was managing. We had set a goal for a 20% reduction in size of that model by the end of the fiscal year. So we were able to track that back and forth over time. And when we'd see issues, we were able to go in and put in a check-in and just say, like, hey, model is growing. What's going on, right? And then I could tag someone. I could tag the Power BI luchador and make that note right inside the metric and then they could respond to that. This was a very helpful tool in tracking something that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise put inside of a larger KPI tracking, but now because of Power BI metrics, it makes it so easy to just do that inside of the tool. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope. No, I think model quality
so.
is, yeah. All right, good deal.
Yep. Yeah, we're good.
All right. If you've ever had to work on very large models, tracking these things is very important, especially if you have high cardinality tables and you're really keeping a close eye on performance, and you want to make sure that you're not going to hit a threshold on size and understanding when you need to refactor. These things can be really helpful for you in doing that. All right. Now, another big one, we kind of alluded to that, was KPI tracking. Now, here is where I think that anytime you're building out a report that's going to be for a larger audience or a larger team, one of the first activities you should do is you should actually create the report, substantiate it inside the service, and then pin metrics to go along with it immediately. And let me show you why. So if we have
a quick question.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question, if I can attempt to repeat it, what model are we looking at in terms of the model quality? Because in Azure or AWS, we also have performance we also have performance metrics in Azure or AWS for the model as well.
Yep. So that is a good question. Let me go back to that go. I literally just had that open, didn't I? Nope. All right, so these are metrics when I was looking at the other one. Come on now. Here we go. This AutoDoc, what it does is it runs was it TMSL scripts? I believe it's TMSL. I could be wrong. Back against your analysis services model to track all of these different metrics about your model. So now this is the size of the model that's in memory, right? So this would relate to how big that model is and if how much room it's taking up inside of your analysis services or your Power BI workspace. Right. Same thing with the models and the dimensional models. How many are actually in there? Right. Right. So this talks about like, okay, hey, there's the prospect alternative key is 2000, but the date key, oh my, that shouldn't be right. Oh, that's how many records there are. Yeah, that's a little off, but it starts to get into the cardinality of, oh no, that's just rows. This is the cardinality. So this is how the granularity of that model. Does that answer your question? I guess if you're looking at AWS and Azure metrics and information, that would be a different data set. As long as you can bring that into Power BI, you could create metrics and track those as well. So I know a lot of people, a lot of organizations do that from both their Azure or AWS bills. They have APIs that drop that information into either a database or a file system, and then Power BI loads that in for management and tracking.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Yes. So KPI tracking. As I was saying, anytime you're making a big report that is going to go a lot of people, first thing first, go ahead and pin these into a metric scorecard that is dedicated specifically for this report. And I'm going to show you why. Now, if I go into my report and I have this published, and this is what I have. I used to have it on my board, but Reboot killed that. I can now take these individual metrics that I've tracked and put into my scorecard, and I can leverage this new thing called the scorecard, the metrics preview, right? So you can see it right here. This is a preview feature that you can start to use as a custom visual inside of your Power BI desktop. So when I have these are just my classical cards visuals, right? Because this is what I want it to look like. But if I want if I want to show executives so that they can actually see my metrics details, right, on something like this, all I do is put in a little button that allows me to hide and bring those forward. And now individual KPI cards start to come forward that track each of those items. So instead of just having those KPIs, I can actually see that information, and I'm able to go into the details on it and track the messages and track the conversations that people are having about any given KPI. Oh, come on now. What this does is allows the executives to have that back and forth exchange right inside the service, right inside that report, without having to go someplace else. Now, apparently that's not liking it, of course, this time because it's a demo and that's how these things go. But that's that is how that works if you're using it on a regular basis. Okay. Now, this ability to track and have that conversation inside of a report itself is just incredibly powerful. And as you can see, it's real easy to just embed this in. Oh, something went wrong with you? Why did something go wrong? I don't know why that went wrong, but it's easy to embed them visually inside of the service and actually see that conversation that's going on. Okay. Um, any questions about how you can use this inside of a given report?
Yeah, I'm just going to.
What's that?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, my question is, so you set these scorecard metrics to refresh, say, X times a day, yeah?
Yep.
So how would that affect a direct query board? Would you still be able to pull that in real time, or will that affect how you're refreshing it?
Yeah. Fantastic question. So this this is on a data set that I've embedded, but you can set this up so this report itself is on a golden data set or a direct query data set. You could have that all set up there, but these metrics will run off of a separate data set altogether, right? They run off of the metric data set that's created when you pin these into that data set. Does that make sense? Well,
That makes sense. Cheers.
Yeah. So and that's why that's why having that separate data set is so fantastically powerful, because now you have access to, okay, so so I've got access to this dark Power BI scorecard right here. Well, I can create a report on this, right? So I could just go in and I could hit on that auto create, and I didn't do it this time, but well. But I can go in and I can build off my own report off of the like the status items that have come through, the comments, the notes, so I can completely customize it. And that data set itself can become its own thing, right? Its own entity that you're using inside of your solution, right? So it can exist alongside of that direct query or that enterprise model or whatever else it is that you're using to track your information, yeah, or report on analytics, yeah, right. um I will keep going. Now, another thing that I am often tasked with, and I'd imagine everyone is often tasked with, is okay. Hey, this is our scorecard, and this is great. We want it. We love the look of it. We love the feel. Right? It's all good, but is the data quality any good? Right? Is it right? And honestly, that's something that we should be pressing our executives to be asking these questions to make sure that the information that they're getting, that they understand it, they know what it is, but then finding a way to actually showcase and show off that information, if is it's right or if it's not, can be something that's really hard to do. So that's why um, I actually built out a data reporting, a data quality report that I have taken, and I have gone with a my enterprise model. I took my enterprise model and I built onto that. I added in, oops, where'd it go? Oh, I added in a validation query, right? So I've got my factory seller sales here in this case. I then created a validation query that I could run and pull into the service on a daily basis that validates all of the information across all of my dimensions that allows me to create some reports on top of it. Again, because it's a Power BI report, there's lots of things that I can do inside of here to actually articulate where I may have differences, right? And I'm a big fan. If you're going to do data quality, I like two different dimensions to really look at, number or metrics. I like count. How many records do you have? There should be the same number of records. And then I also like to make sure that you have the right amounts or a value are being added up, right? So just because you have the right number of records, if they happen to be the same record repeated all of the time, it doesn't help you, right? You need to have the right record so you have a value. So I always look for counts and amounts. Inside this report, I put together to track data quality. I did it across time. I did some validations in here to make sure that these things were coming up and were in theory, quote unquote, correct. But as you can see inside here, I have different or differences, right? And I did that by actually calculating these values, right? So you can actually, let me zoom in on this. Oops, that was not my zoom button. All right, I can zoom in. So I basically, took, like, okay, hey, what's my metric that's coming on my model? After I've brought in my validation query, I can now just do an easy summation across that. Because it's been, that validation query was brought in, it was connected to all my various dimensions. I could see where I had any different discrepancies. Also went through to make sure that a discrepancy, um, if I know what the fix is or how to start on the fix, I want to provide guidance for that person who's coming along behind me as to, like, what should you do? Like an initial fix, just try refreshing, right? Or if you're on, where is it? Oh, if you're on a promotional dimension thing, hey, here's what you do. Always do a refresh. Otherwise, it's from a third party system. Here's the third party support link, right? So you can go get more information. Put all that in the report, publish that up to the service. Now I run this every day after loads, but I do more than just this. So I've got this report, but because once I have that report, I can now pin all of these values into a scorecard, right? So we can pin it into a scorecard. Where did it go? Right. So I've pinned all of those items into a scorecard. And again, where I can see where there's a conversation, when there's an issue, I can see all this information, right? But I can now take that entire scorecard and I can go back to my executive report, and I can take that and I can create a data quality tab, and I can bring all of those metrics right into my data quality tab. So if my executive ever has a question or challenges any of the data that's inside of my warehouse, he can actually see like, oh, hey, you know what? There's an issue here. What's Chris doing about it? Okay, he called out the Power BI luchador, asking telling him that there's an issue with this one, and we don't have a fix yet, right? But that empowers your users to actually be in touch with what's going on, be able to track the issues that you're alerting yourself to, making yourself aware of, and then responding with the fix all inside of one space. All right. This is super powerful in helping communicate out. Like, yes, not only do you have great analytics, great information, but you have the highest quality of data possible. All right. And then I got one last one. Oh, no, that was data quality. So that was the data quality one that I just did. So we did the sales. And then I went right into, okay, hey, here's the data quality and how you can validate this out and tie it out, right? So now I've got a task for you. Go in and start to use this. This is incredibly powerful. There's so much more here than you could possibly imagine that you could do. Give it a shot. Where's my little slide thing? This is just honestly, it boggles my mind all the different places where I'd recommend people using the metrics tracking. Anyone have any questions? That makes sense how you'd use this? Give you any ideas for how to use it?
I love mobile. On mobile, have you used metrics on a mobile device, given the smaller form factor?
Actually, I have used them on a mobile device. It was they actually have a really great experience on the mobile device. It actually will change the layout and the format for the metrics on there. It's very good.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone here using metrics? Was that a hands up or was that a question? We'll take the question first, but whilst I walk over there, is anybody using metrics? We've got a couple of people here, Chris, using metrics.
Yeah.
But I guess it's it's relatively newish, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people saw it as a thing that was outside of their model, and so they just kind of left it. But I think it should be a companion that goes with everything. Like I was showing in this report, right? Like if you have a report, you should be just automatically going in and figuring out what metrics are most important for you to track with that, add that in, and then expand it as necessary, right? I 100% could add these, add something else from other areas of my report into that same metrics app or same scorecard and continue to track that.
Hi, Chris. Just wanted to ask, based on that report you've got there, how well does it work with the different visuals? Because obviously you were using the simple scorecard kind of metrics to track. How well does it work with more complicated visuals such as the graphs or?
Yeah, a great question. Let me show you. So it is very easy to go in and do. I go in, click on edit, go to new metric, and I'll just check this out, connect to data. I'll go to the same report we've been looking at, and you can go in and go to almost anything, right? Like I could click on an item and look, it's going to connect it to all of these items, right? So it's Guardian Bank plus Vigorous Exercise Company for fiscal year 2023. I could create a metric on that, or I could go in and literally select anything I want inside of here, and I get all of the different filters that are in place. I can even, oh yeah, I guess because there's only one measure inside that, you only get one selection. But I think inside here, see here, yeah, because this visual has 3 metrics on it, I can choose: is it sales amount, is it order quantity, is it amount shipped? I mean, it's pretty good, and you have complete navigation ability, so you can actually go through any of the items that you have, and set that. Right, and it will also, like, so for example here, it also respects uh like the buttons, so you can actually go in. I believe I can do this. Oh, so it doesn't work on the AI one. Well, let's see if it works on it doesn't work on that, but it'll work on your custom filters. So it doesn't look like it works on any of the AI filters, but the other ones it does work on. Oh wait, no, look, totally didn't. I was wrong. It does. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. So I mean, wherever you're going inside your report, because it's just going in, you're going through and navigating, and then it's just grabbing whatever. I believe it's grabbing whatever DAX statement and filter context is being executed by the individual item that you're selecting. Right, so it's capturing whatever that is that's being highlighted, and then that's what's being stored in order to take those snapshots. So it just runs that over and over again. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. 2 quick questions just to double check. Do I need premium license?
So for scorecards, that was a premium feature. It is no longer a premium feature. That is now something that's available to anyone with Pro.
Okay. So the workspace doesn't need to have premium capacity.
Correct.
Okay. Just to double check, the example you wrong is, can I use different data set from different workspace, or all the data set has to be in the same workspace?
No, that goes back to the whole concept of like the mesh and having different owners, right? Like like whoever owns that content is the one who will have it created, right? So if it's in this workspace or this one, right, like you can take your scorecard and you can source it from all of these. It just depends on wherever the right place is for a given metric. That's where you should get it from.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And I know for a fact that Microsoft has switched all of their corporate enterprise goals and tracking over to this. So it is Satya uses it. So you can be assured that it's getting more and more love and more features and updates as you go. So if you looked at metrics, when it first came out like a year or more ago, come back and take a look at it again. It's really better in a number of different ways. Do check it out.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah.
One more question, please.
Yeah.
When you're building a scorecard, as you say, you've got data coming in from around the business and possibly external businesses as well, and it tends to all come in at different times and for different reporting calendars, and some data like headcounts or customer satisfaction might be weeks later than the end of the
Mhm.
month, or not at all. They might miss. Have you any ideas on how to elegantly deal with that? Rather,
Well,
because I don't want to put labels everywhere and date ranges and caveats and then cut it up with
right.
all that sort of thing.
Now, I will also say, so to answer your question, let me show you how I handle this. Is I go back to these metrics are tracked based upon the source system of record. So, you refresh daily, and if the metric is coming from a source system that's daily, it'll be updated every daily. If not, it gets updated on the cadence of that other team, right? So
Okay.
if and because this, I mean, I would click on there. There's a little Power BI icon right there. If you click on it, it takes you right through. I don't know why I didn't grab that visual this time, but it takes you right through to the report and to the visual that you had connected it to, and then it'll so that the user actually see that connection, see how it connects through, and then right.
So the user can see the source.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yep. So this is just the snapshot, and if they want details or more information on that snapshot, go through to that more enriched story, more curated process that is in the report itself.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. Thanks.
Yep. Now, a recommendation I think is I'm going to coach everyone, and I have not done this yet, but I should really should be doing this. This is a visual, right? So I have complete control over this page. I could do whatever I want inside here. One of the things I do recommend. So this is a scorecard that we track at the top above any of your scorecards, and this is a business recommendation. It's not a technical recommendation, but I've been part of a deep number of studies and reviews on this about how to get people connected and to understand goals. Is at the top include an image of yourself or the person who's in charge of leading the items here or defining what's going on, as well as the mission statement or the reason for why these goals are important, right? I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read Simon Sinek's Start with Why, but it really it really goes along those lines. Make sure that you're grounding your users into why these scorecards and why these metrics are important. That will go a long way in helping with the adoption, with helping people see like, oh, this is why this matters to me. This is what's important, right? And helping drive that. So I do recommend that to people. I have to follow my own advice and update this to include that little tip. But that's super important. Okay. Any other questions? Wish I was in the room. Oh, and I do see James asked a question in the chat about do I think that metrics being premium impacted or hurt its rollout? Yeah, possibly to some extent. I think always better when things can just be free as part of the service. That really does help in the adoption, getting people into things. But sometimes that's not necessarily how things go, right? So it is what it is. Now, there's also a chat asking about how do you get access to the model documentation and that information. I shared a link out on out into the chat. You can go out on my website. You can download it's just a PBIX file that you can customize. You can download it here as well as instructions. These instructions do include the like templates for the background, so like you can if you don't want it to be like this nighttime star background, you want it to be customized to your organization. You could just use that and make it relatively easy for you to change that background for you. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Well, it sounds like we are wrapping up. Then before I go, I do want to let you know, if anyone is interested in engaging with me or Baker Tilly in general, we have an incredible Pathfinder program that you can get involved with. It's a 2 to 3 day program. We work companies through helping them get on a better path for their data and analytics strategy. It's an absolutely fabulous program. I absolutely love it. So do check that out if you're interested. And it's the first time I'm going to announce this here. Oh no, what happened to my slide? Oh,
where's the slide gone? Can you hear me?
my slide went away.
Oh,
Here we go. First time. I'm going to be kicking off a lunch and learn on Wednesdays. For you, it's it's this time every Wednesday. So I guess what time is it for you? 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock p.m.
7 o'clock. Can you
7
hear?
o'clock. All right.
7 o'clock.
So my noon lunch and learn will be a 7 p.m. Dinner and learn if you're interested. But we're going to be going into all sorts of enterprise conversations. We're going to be talking like DBT in one of our first conversations. We'll talk Databricks, Synapse. We're going to talk about pipelines, data ops. Starting to line up the schedule now, so that should be announced relatively soon. If any of you want to talk and be part of that live stream, let me know. I'm booking dates now. So thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. What is wrong with my slideshow? This is absolutely my favorite topic to talk about. Thank you guys. You guys have a great day.